What's up? This is Give and Take, where we talk about faith, culture, music, and everything in between. I'm Bgives coming at you right after the intro. We have a super dope episode for you today. I got a chance to interview my friend Namarah. Absolutely killer artist. Please go check out her stuff after you're done here. We had a good conversation about our new song, Avocados. Everybody wanna talk about a drug trade, why they buying avocado. Broke down some of the lyrics, what it means culturally, and how you can be blessed by it and engage with the song both during and after the listen. If you haven't heard the song, the links are down below. Also, there's a music video. It's super dope and it's down below as well, so you guys can go check out those things. I don't want to hold you any longer. Here is my conversation with Namarah. Just really wanted to sit down with you. Obviously, you play a huge role in the song, and I think that it closes out probably better than I pictured when I reached out to you. So, I just wanted to get together with you, talk a little bit about what the song means to you and what inspires you as an artist and everything like that. So let's kick it off. I guess first question would just be, originally when I first sent it over to you, we hadn't worked together or anything like that. Like, what made the song stand out to you and make it something that you wanted to get involved in?
Yeah, well, but not even saying we've never worked together.
We didn't
know each other.
Yeah.
Like, there was no relationship at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I just cryptically had your number in my phone somehow. And that was
which again is like, I feel like that was totally just God, It was just one of those like, oh, okay, here we are. Exactly. I was just really irritated how my journal keeps on popping up like, look at me. I'm like, no, can we not?
Yeah, I thought you were like pointing at the sun.
See, because it's a lion looking like it. But the what drew me to the song was the one thing was your boldness. There are very few people that I am interested in collaborating with because they don't necessarily come correctly. And I'm not saying that in like a egotistical or entitled thing. I'm saying that when a person knows what they want to do, they have a certain kind of tone. And so like when you reached out, you were like, hey, I've got this project that I think you could really resonate with. Take a listen to it. If you're interested, get back to me. And that is different than, hey, yo, your music's dope, let's link.
Right. Yeah.
And so that for me, I was automatically, I took it seriously, and I do take those things seriously. And then the second thing that really, it's the line right when the beat comes in, the media got us in their pockets.
Mm-hmm.
That line, I already knew. I didn't have to listen to the rest of the song. I said, correct.
Yes.
It was immediately something that kind of punches you both literally, because the beat drops and it's a gut punch to the listener, but not in a way where it's like, you're trash. It's, hey, us. We have this issue.
Yeah.
And
every single one of us.
Be in it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was the grabber for me. And so once I listened to it for a few more plays, I'm a huge lyricist person. I'm big on words. I'm big on intentionality. And so when I listened, I said, oh, this is a person who reads. Oh, this is a person who knows what he's talking about. Oh, this is a person that isn't just thinking about, oh, does this word like match this beat in this flow? But this person not only takes the flow and the beat into account, but also make sure that the words that you're saying count every single time. Right. And I am the same. I don't mince words if I can.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I'm talking about something very spiritual or something that's very political. And so and then the final thing was, it's sure nice to collaborate with white men talking about politics, where I don't have to worry about talking about politics, because being Black is being political in itself in America.
Yeah.
And so that's what tied it all up for me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think first of all, I appreciate that. It's very, very thank you. That's definitely the energy I want to bring into the world, is like, not most people, but I think the perception is a lot of people that look like me are very just standoffish and one-sided. And if I
Right.
can, if I can make a song like this that addresses something so real, but in a way that's so lighthearted and like
Sober minded.
fun. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I like when I had the idea for the song was really just like, I don't want this to be like every other song that talks about the media because there's plenty of them out there. But like you listen to, I mean, especially in hip hop, for example, like there's still so many like subliminal negative messages in the midst of it. And I'm like, I want to bring something like refreshing and positive and like, hey, we're all in this together. And kind of go from there. So, yeah. And on your point about lyrics, I think it's a blessing and a curse to care about it so much because it means that I put
Yeah.
out music far less often than maybe I want to. And like this is
Mm-hmm.
one of those songs that you could ask my roommate. I probably recorded those verses like 1,000 times just because I'm
Wow.
like, nope, that's not quite right. Like, gotta do it again. And so,
It's excellence, though.
but yeah, so you gotta take the time. And I guess talking about your verse, like obviously, you mentioned all the things that attracted you to the song. Like, what really inspired you to write the words that you wrote?
Yeah, well, I mean, I also want to kind of turn it on you because
Okay.
I wrote those lyrics in real time
Yes, you
with
did.
you,
Yes, you did.
you
I was
know.
very impressed.
Oh, thank you. And so, for me, when it comes to writing, it's twofold. I am using my intellect, but I really am, and we can go a little bit deeper in this a little bit later, but I am really yielding to what the Holy Spirit is saying and what I hear when I'm writing. And so I do a lot of like, okay, I'm trusting what I'm hearing, and then what is it that I need to infuse on my side as an artist myself, and how do those two kind of coincide?
Right.
And so when writing the lyrics, what ended up happening for those who are listening on the playback, is that I had Brandon. I was like, yo, I need you to just tell me where you were mentally when you were writing this song in the first place.
Mhm.
You have to like give me the backstory of what it is because I know the lyrics, but I want the heart.
Mhm.
And so the thing is, I'm not a person when it comes to writing where I want to echo what was said. I want to add value to
Mhm.
what was said. And if I'm not adding to it, then I'm at least, like this in this particular song, tying up the loose ends,
Mhm.
right? And so with Avocados, I feel like a lot of what you had said was already like the evidence was there.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily have to add any more information to critique or call to action. That's why I said in the second part of the outro, honestly, we're all done talking. Find the motivation and start a reaction. Get up
Yeah.
and go, just go.
Mhm.
Because if you listen to the whole track, you've already given a plethora of information for you to go and do your own research,
Right.
for you to go and think about it, have a conversation, ask questions. There is really nothing more for me to say.
Mhm.
And really it's just saying, hey, it's time for us to shift into this, we're all in this together,
Hey, hey.
um kind of like, hey, let's actually just go and do the work.
Yeah.
And the other reason why I didn't want to add more to that is because personally, kind of going back to what I had said about being black and being is inherently being political when you are an African American woman, is
Mhm.
that I wanted to stay very much so in my, go ahead and listen to the more because I'm done talking. We are done talking. Actually, me as a black woman, just like Haley Bailey and Chloe
Yeah.
Bailey and Namarah and all of these other African American women, we are
Yeah.
doing what we are doing because we're tired of entering into the game like we don't have a right to
Yeah.
be here, or we don't have anything to say on this topic. Actually, we have plenty to say, but we also have so much more life to live.
Mhm.
And as an African American woman, I model in my artistry and in my politics and in my education and everything to show what it looks like to be an empowered African American woman who knows her history, but is also no longer entering into a battle that I don't need to fight anymore.
Mhm.
And when I say that I don't need to fight it, not saying that racism is all done. It's actually, it's your battle to fight. My battle is living fully.
Yeah.
Like my battle is dreaming fully. My battle is being fully
Yeah.
without having to have the conversation of if I have the right to. And
Right.
so that's the voice that I felt like I wanted to really carry when talking to speaking to Avocados, because so many people from marginalized communities are, you know, picking up their pitchfork and building their platform for reasons and causes that they weren't the ones who started the problem in the first place. So I'm not gonna, I'm gonna model what it looks like to be free. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna model what it looks like to be full of joy
Yeah.
and full of, I'm aware of all of the little dust, but I also am going to, in spite of it all, be amazing, be
Yeah.
brilliant, and be educated,
Yeah.
and still hold that space.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that one of the inspirations for me in not just this song but all of my music is the sheer amount of conversations I've had with just friends of color that are like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like, I don't want to have to, why do I need to explain why I'm in the situation I'm in to you? Like, we have the internet, you can look it up. Like, and so I think, like, for me, I'm like, all right, my mantra should be bringing that energy into the space where I'm like, I'm all right, dude, I could talk about this. Like, let's do it. And yeah, so, you know, I appreciate that. And you know, your heart for the song, I think it all comes out really, really well. And it's such a vibe of a way too. I think, like, just it brings even just the feel of the song to a close as well, where it's not just like I don't expect anything beyond it. It's like, wow, this really wrapped up the song in a way that makes me hopefully feel inspired to go and make a change, right? Because that's the point.
Go, just go.
Hey, and I would like to point out, because you mentioned the like wrote it live in front of me, that we probably spent more time figuring out how to make everything work than we actually took you to write the song and then lay it all down. Like, once we actually got involved,
that was in an hour or a half.
It's probably an hour and a half total. So if you guys are listening to the song, the first 3/4 of it took me a year, and the rest of it took an hour and a half. So
wow,
just shows the talent that comes in at the end.
Oh,
but
thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate that. I want you to know that it's all definitely a process. There are some days,
for sure.
There are some days. I was just talking to my dear friend on the phone about this right before we got on our chat, and she goes, you know, what is your writing process? Like, do you just kind of shoot from the hip, or, you know, is it, is this carrying in years? And I said, it's a combination. And I feel like that's the process for every writer.
Yeah.
Some things just come in the moment, and others, you are going through your notes and you find something that was 2, 3, 5 years old, and you're like, oh, this.
Let's go. Yeah.
Right. You know, and so, I say that, I say all of that because I don't want anyone to feel like you have to write something amazing in an hour and a half, or you have to do it in 3 years.
Yeah.
It all depends on, you know, what is in the atmosphere when you're creating.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. I mean, I have songs that I wrote in a day that are out. I had songs that took me a long time. So that's definitely a key thing to mention as well.
All you songwriters out there.
Hey, yes. Feel encouraged. Yes. I mean, we basically already covered this. The next question was really like, how do you think the song engages culture? Today, I think for me, what's been interesting so far is, you know, I think we're really just starting with the release, even it's been out for about a week. Yeah. So, is that everybody that I've talked to, like, I don't know, a number of people completely across the spectrum of like political and religious belief. And everyone has been like, it was really good for a different reason. And I think like so many people that like I grew up with that have just completely disagree with my ideologies across the board are like, yes, I get it. Like, we are all the same. Like, we're all in this thing together. And I'm like, cool. Now go listen to other things. But like, I don't know. I think that's kind of what wasn't necessarily expecting from like the reaction was just across the board. People felt it in their own way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it's really important for people to resonate with a song in order
Mhm.
for them to live in it. And the thing is, these days, honestly, not many people are really listening to the words yet.
Yeah.
And so unless someone's already, into music and into the lyrics, they're thinking, oh, like I like the beat. The beat's
Hmm.
nice. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. She's singing. She's got a pretty voice. Like, oh, get up and go, just go. Like,
Yeah.
oh, avocados. Like, it all sounds fun, but they're
Hmm.
not listening.
Yeah.
And so it takes them a few times, like 5,
Hmm.
7, 12 plays for them to really see what you're talking about. And
Right.
at that point, I think that it's really I think it's great because even though you might not have heard it the first time, your brain did. And so when you play it again, your brain's still hearing you,
Yeah.
your information. And even if you necessarily disagree with the ideology or whatever, it's already been playing a few times in your head that
Hmm.
it's opening you up for the conversation in the future.
Right.
And that's, I mean, that's part of the reason why we make art. It's so that we can open up spaces for conversation.
Mm. Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that when it comes to this particular song, someone in my Rolodex of humans is a lot more on the conservative side and has a little few differing views from me, and he was like, "Hey, can you send me this? Like, I like this the beat." And I said, "Oh, great! I can't wait to have a conversation with
Absolutely.
you in a few
Yeah.
weeks to say like
Yeah.
ask what you thought about the song."
Hmm.
And those are the reasons why I love music like this,
Hmm.
that we can say, "Hey, listen to this," and I don't have to give you a bunch of facts, quotes, platitudes,
Right.
whatever, because people's hearts are already kind of ready for defense,
Hmm.
especially in our climate culture right now, or our culture's climate, I should say, is that we're a lot more defensive than open to conversation.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so if I'm in a place where I'm not really open to having conversation with you, I'm not going to engage with someone who funny is like as funny as they might be, if they're on TikTok and they're already being political, I'm gonna swipe past it. But
Hmm.
the song going to slip through the cracks,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah.
know? And so
Absolutely.
it's like however the information needs to get to you, I'm about that.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that this song is going to be one of those where it's a sleeper on people, for those who don't necessarily are interested in that kind of space. But I think our generation and the generation beneath us are very much about political movement. Like our
Especially them under us.
Yes, our generation
Yeah.
under us is very much so like we're not about, like you might as well be quiet quitting because
Right.
the whole like you're entering into capitalism and da 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 da. And I'm like, wow, look at all of these younger people who are really passionate about this, but it's
Hmm.
really because they're sometimes they're children from our generation who got
Yeah.
into the child rearing times like
Yeah.
a lot earlier than some of us. But
Hmm.
then there's others who, just because there's so much internet, there's so much information, to like the kids are like, you can't just see it, like it's there, it's
Yeah.
everywhere. And so they see that there's something wrong with it. And so um yeah, I think that it is definitely an opportunity for people to have very healthy conversation. Quite frankly, when you sent me the song, I wasn't aware about the you know just being honest, I wasn't aware about what the gangs were doing in
Right. The
Mexico.
cartel. Yeah, with the avocado
Yeah.
farms. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was in
Yeah.
San Diego.
Right.
Like I'm not too far from Tijuana,
Yeah.
right? And
Like,
like
hold on,
and
let me Google this.
right, like when you send it, I'm like, "Oh, wait, I'm 15 minutes away from the border right now. I probably should know." And I consider myself to be a very educated woman. And so
Hmm.
this is something that we all, it's just, hey, there is more that to your world
Yeah.
than your world.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's what we need to be a lot more mindful of. It's there's more to your world than your world that you know.
Hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think just that call to action of like it's actually important for us to know what we're supporting
Yeah.
when we do things, and I think
Yeah.
the it what's coming to my mind just now, which is funny because I watched this show before I wrote the song, but have you ever watched The Good Place?
Uh-huh.
I think that a lot of like the probably second season where they start to realize that like everyone's going to the bad place because when you buy roses, you don't know what you're supporting when you buy roses type of thing. Um, I'm just tying that together in my head that like, oh, that premise did come from somewhere. But yeah, I think making
Mm,
people more like aware of those things is important. When we talk about anything in culture and society, just kind of recognizing your starting point and then being self-aware and emotionally intelligent enough to like understand where the other person's coming from, and then you can find middle grounds.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and yeah, so that's really the heart of kind of what I want to do. And I think to your point about the power of music, I wanted to touch on just like us as Christians as well, like
Yeah.
because obviously you're saying like you can slide under the radar because people aren't really listening to your message at first. They just wanted the vibe, and then the 20th listen, they're like,
Oh,
oh
snap.
wow, God cares about me, or like God loves me, and then boom, like that can start a whole momentum of change in their lives as well. And I think that the same is true for music that has more of a social message. So my question for you is like, what? Obviously, I know this, but where do you think that like Christians belong in this space of like talking about issues that we face socially and
Yeah.
everything like that?
Well, you asked the right person. The very first song that I ever released, I was 16, and it was a protest song.
Yes.
So, and so it was called La Di Da, and really it was kind of similar to this. It was not lighthearted. It was very melancholy. A girl on her guitar. But I had said 16 years, and for 16 years, I've seen gang wars, rapes, hurricanes, and gaunt faces.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
we uh, just because we are Christian doesn't mean that we don't have a human experience, and we are not to speak to what
Right.
the humans are experiencing. And one of the biggest problems I personally believe when it comes to Christians who are afraid of politics and entering into the political sphere is that you are so heavenly minded that you are no earthly good.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Yeah.
are so concerned about the things of God, like quote unquote, like how God moves and all of these
Right.
things, but you don't have anything to say about what is happening here when
Mm-hmm.
God said that we're supposed to bring heaven to earth.
Yeah.
And so if we're supposed to be, walking as a representation of the kingdom of God on earth, that means the kingdom of God has something to say to the earthly things.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes politics, it includes health, it includes representation, it includes women in business, and it includes women at home,
Mm-hmm.
family structure, it includes all of these things. And when we look at the history of religious leaders, at least when it came to the Bible, you know prophets and judges were leaders of nations.
Yeah.
Deborah would speak to affairs of the kingdom, the people of Israel before there were kings, and then when they were kings, like there wasn't a difference between structure and government
Mm-hmm.
and the church, because God was always involved with the human happenings of
Yeah.
humankind. And so, yeah, I believe that it's always our job in whatever atmosphere that we have, whether it's through music or through business or whatever, to be fully engaged and connected with what's happening here on the ground
Mm-hmm.
with our
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. I mean, that's so good. I think that that's very true. And then, I think the presence that I wanted to kind of bring forward in this song and then other stuff that, I write is, I think the Christian perspective on these topics shouldn't be um, in a box. I
Yes.
think that I hold the belief at this point that if you're a believer and you can wholeheartedly be on one side of the aisle, then there's probably something that you need to address, like in your heart, right? Because I don't think that we should be all conservative or all liberal, because there's so much in that box that I don't think that is aligned with the heart of God. And so if we can kind of, if I can draw people out of the box on either side, and I know oftentimes probably I'm perceived as a more liberal human being.
Right.
But like, I have kind of my arms stretched out on both sides where I'm like, there's too woke. And that's really what the second verse is like,
Yes.
there's way too far on the other side of the spectrum that I think it ignores um, the image of God in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then, there's to the other side. And if we can kind of come together, and my voice for a lot of Christians is like, hey, just listen. Like I wrote a song called
Yeah.
Close to Love that I released last year based off of this quote that I heard that said, listening is so close to love, you can hardly tell the difference. And so it's just kind of like, I think that's the space that Christians need to be in, is like
That's so good.
being able to recognize, like I said earlier, your starting point, and then put that aside to actually hear what the other person is saying, and not just listening to respond, and being so quick to align yourself with one side or the other, that, like I said, avocados, that like you're so quick to jump to an opinion on something that all it takes is a few words at the top of an article for you to
Right.
know how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I think a really good example um, for someone to see what it looks like for Christians to engage in actual meaningful conversation is the picture of Jesus when he was going with the disciples, and this woman who was a Gentile, her daughter was, she was tormented by this evil spirit. And Jesus was like, I'm not called to you right now. And so he kept on going on his way, which really does look like a lot of Christians. Like we'll say like, oh, well, that's not something I want to discuss, or I'm
Mm,
not like, I don't have a stance on that.
yeah.
But because she was so desperate for the healing, right? She goes, yeah, well, even the dogs eat the crumbs from the master's table. And because it was,
Mm,
and she said, and so Jesus turns and says, great is your faith, and then went and did the very thing that he was saying that he was called away to do. He
mm-hmm.
wasn't called to those people, right? And so it's modeling what we should be engaging in as Christians, where
Yeah.
we should be ready to have conversations in difficult spaces, or maybe not so typical places, with people who don't look like us, don't think like us, don't live like us. But because we're willing to have the conversation, we might
Mm-hmm.
be willing to actually change the outcome.
Yeah.
And Jesus modeled that as well. And we just need to start holding space for that, instead of trying to get everyone over to get into our boat, instead of maybe building a boat together where we both can go into a safer place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. That's great. Well, I think that we could call a wrap on that. Lastly, I just wanted to honor you and say, like, we'll give a few minute snapshot of like, who is Namarah, when's their next drop, what are you putting
Oh
out into the
man.
universe?
Oh, well, thank you.
Of course.
First of all, I want to say it's just been such a pleasure collaborating with you, Brandon. Like, you're dope.
Ditto.
And so
Thank
I
you.
look forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
That'll be a cool team up.
Mm.
Um, my music has been coming out. I had released 2 singles this year. I'm releasing an album at the end
Hey.
of this month. So
Ooh.
and what I mean this month, because I don't know when people are watching, but I'm
Yeah.
releasing this album in September, and you're gonna hear it first. The date is September 27th, so that's 2 weeks from now, from the day that we're
Hey.
recording. And it's been something that I really felt like God really wants to do. Kind of going back to how the music gets in there. It's a house record and like club music
Mm.
and dancing, and so giving space for Christians to actually be free and dance, but also something that's really great, that DJs actually want to play it anywhere they go,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're like, oh, this is Jesus music.
Right.
Like that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for that. But people can
Mm.
find me by just looking up my name, Namarah, and I'm streaming on all platforms, and you can find me on Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
TikTok and all the places.
Yeah. And I will just say you probably know from the song, but it is an absolute vibe, and your
Yes.
stage presence is crazy as well. So
Oh, thank you so
yeah,
much.
of course, of course. One thing that I will continue to learn from you is kind of how to rock a stage and do it right.
Oh,
So
we gotta get on the stage together for Avocados
absolutely,
one day.
absolutely,
Yeah,
definitely will do that. Well, thank you, Namarah. I appreciate your time. And yeah, that's it.
that's it.
That's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I know it was a bit long. Thank you for riding out with me on the journey. Again, please go check out the music video and the song down below. And of course, before you leave, like, comment, and subscribe. You know how good that is for us small artists out here. All right? Till next time, y'all. This is Give and Takes.